All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So we're going to do three on this one. We will take a look at SoundHound, BBAI, and then SOFI right after that. So very interesting day today. Clearly, this is just the doji, and generally I would always say, hey, a doji's 50-50, and really I'm going to still say it today, but this is a different doji today. This is a earnings gap up doji. This was a monster volume day. We were really excited about this volume day right here. That's why I drew that line. Looky a little bit higher right there. And I'm going to zoom out. We're actually going to see that today, I'll just do it right now, right? Roughly there. Again, I'll correct that in a second. But today is give or take the seventh best day since ever, right? There's about 3, 4, 5 right there, maybe another 2 right there, and then here we are today, right? So real big volume day. That's easy to love. Interesting doji for sure, and well over the golden line, well over all the moving averages, and more than anything, a lot to like in the actual earnings that came out today. All right, BBAI, look, today this obviously did have a green day. I actually said it in the Discord. It was one of the first things I said. Today's 8%, really, I'm looking at it more as a technical in the, like, this is literally in my 50-50 zone. This is right between the last two moving averages, the 8 and the 20 that we care so much about. This is as 50-50 as you can get as we go into earnings on what I think is Monday, right? It's the 11th, is it not? Yeah, it's on Monday. So, I mean, this is either going to bring us a monster 20-25% like we basically just saw with SoundHound, arguably even more. If BBAI has good earnings and it brings even more volume, I mean, I'll give you my educated guesses, right? If it does not do well with earnings, we are coming to 6. All right, that's going to be the first expectation with a little bit worry below. And look, the main thing I'm going to say, SoundHound doing well does not mean BBAI will, okay? It obviously said a lot of like good things about AI. They couldn't say enough about the demand in AI. It's why their revenue went up 200 something percent. I'm going into the deeper thoughts, right? But just because this one did it, it's not a guarantee that this one will, right? And again, this is where you gotta live in that risk reward realm and decide what you want to do, right? I'm never here to say buy, sell, hold. I'm just gonna give you my thoughts, and then hey, hopefully we all do well with our individual clicks of buy, sell, or do nothing, right? So that's going to be the 1, 2, and then we will end it out with SOFI. Look, SOFI had good earnings. SOFI flew on the wick all the way up to our 25 line, right? But lo and behold, it's back here, and that's actually something we talked about on the last video, right? It's kind of the theme on SOFI earnings. You go a little bit flat before the truth comes out and goes, right? So excited to talk about these three. Let's wind it out with the let's go to look at the SPY because this was the last thing we talked about on the Discord. So I love differences of opinions, right? And there was a thought that SPY puts down to 625 would be a decent thing, and it's basically for the next week, right? There are inflation data things that are going to come out on the 12th, and you can see the way I describe that data things. I don't really know what's going to come, but hey, I think August 12th might dictate some of that. Overall, I am liking what's going on this index, right? I really am not thinking 625. I'm actually thinking continuing on up, right? Because we went from a really high 80, and again, this is an index. This is as textbook as it gets. Super high 80 RSI, bring it all the way down to a very healthy 55. All of a sudden, I'm seeing a little green over red right there. MACD never fell into the negative, and hopefully we'll get the green over red on that right there. Obviously, SPY does look identical to SPX, which is the S&P 500 itself, mirror images, right? When I look at the NASDAQ, and again, these three are basically NASDAQ and S&P 500 tickers, this also looks really well, and this looks exactly like the S&P 500. So now all of a sudden, I'm thinking to myself, we've got some nice index strength. We've got some nice index unison. That's music to my ears, right? And I like that the unison is over all the 5, bouncing on the 20. We are basic. Are we even completely? Give me a second. We open at 21,000. 457. We are $6 away from getting back over this Friday peak. You know me, I normally don't care about red candles, right? But that was a crazy gap up, a bad fall, and then a crazy drop from the Fed speech to the earnings, sorry, to the labor number things, right? So I'm liking that we're basically recovered most of that crazy Thursday, obviously all of the wild Friday, and then I talked about the moving average stuff. Let's just look at the Dow Jones. I honestly don't know what it looks like. Not quite as good as the other two. I do wish that there was a little bit more unison across the three, but hey, we're looking at three rather tech-heavy stocks. I think as long as the NASDAQ and S&P 500 are looking good, I'll be relatively happy with these three going into Monday. Just baseline that, right? So, cool. Before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal, there's a couple more. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So, normally I do start off with BBAI. Today, clearly, SoundHound takes the realms. And I mean, it's all about the earnings. So this was a really important week, all right? This was, from what I read, roughly a fifth, almost 20% of all the S&P 500 companies gave earnings this week. And I think overall, I've seen more good earnings from important companies than horrible, scary, whatever adjective you want to use, right? SoundHound, I'm not going to necessarily say is one of those important companies that I would classify, but this is one I love to trade. I love to swing, and this is what sets up good swings, because if you can deliver good earnings, the expectation I have, and this really is across every stock, right? My expectation is you should have a really good 3 months until the next earnings, right? Unless something crazy happens, like an like an offering, a scandal, whatever you want to use. At this point, we've heard from their execs. We're not going to hear from them for another few months. Let the index be calm, right? Let NASDAQ and S&P 500 be calm, and let the stock just ride that wave of earnings love, right? And this is that first doji right there based on what happened today, right? So what happened today? They basically destroyed, and I mean they crushed it. They did so well with not just the revenue numbers, but actually with the earnings per share. Okay, this thing says -19. What I saw something else say was -9 cents, and I think that's the better source. Again, always know where your data is coming from, right? There's things I like about the system, there's things that I don't, and I do different things with different things, right? I saw something that said the expectation was SoundHound was going to lose 9 cents a share. Instead, today, they said that they only lost 3 cents a share. That is a significant improvement from expectations, even though the numbers are negative. That is beating earnings per share and actually beating it by a lot. So you're going to do really good revenue guidance. You're going to do really good earnings per share beat. Sorry, I used the words wrong, but they also raised their guidance. That's another thing that you want, right? Because the stock market is all about tomorrow. Okay, one of my favorite jokes, it's an Eddie Murphy line. It's about Umfumfu, some lady that he found in the caves of Africa, brings her to the Hollywood Hills, and all of a sudden she doesn't care about yesterday. She's still asking, Eddie, what have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? So no one cares about yesterday. It's about tomorrow. All right. And when you say my guidance for the future was actually too low and I need to raise it, that's music to your ears, right? So look, everything I'm saying is positive. The technical is this doji right now. Okay, we really do need to confirm this doji. All right, I really don't think we're gonna come all the way down here. Like I don't. I think there's a decent chance we might live a little horizontally on this 1260 line. I think that's something just to consider in your back pocket. But again, I really like what NASDAQ looks like. I don't know enough about this inflation data on the 12th. And I think I do want to respect it a little bit because let's be honest, there has been a lot of inflation, right? Again, I'm not an economist, but like I think there has been, right? So I'm going to see what that does come Tuesday, but technicals are saying beautiful bounce and let's go with healthy NASDAQ, right? So SoundHound should be able to confirm this doji. And really, what am I looking for to confirm? Where's 50% of that? Oh my goodness. Yo, I promise you, I did not rehearse that, but I just tried to click on 50% of this candle right here. It basically lined up to the bottom of this, basically lined up to the bottom of this. And again, if you see it, this 50% right there almost perfectly lands where we closed today, right? So that's what my first assumption was going to be. I'm looking for that. Ah, look at that. That's actually what we wicked on top. It's the bottom of this, top of this, top of this. Like that's just right. Like I'm gonna delete this line, but that's picturesque right there, right? Boom, almost to the penny. I think we need a recap, but that's so close to that line. Give me a second. Give me a second. It has to be that line. It's not far enough. You know what? I think the answer actually is this line. And I'm going to delete this line. And what I'll do, we'll just move that up to there. Let's take it to that. I think that's what I'm going to do with these lines. I think we need to break $14.30. All right, that's basically what we wicked today. And again, you saw what I drew it off of, almost perfectly the bottom of that one too, right? I think we got to break 1430. You do that, I'm basically thinking 17. Truth be told, I was almost thinking of completely deleting this line because green, 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 red, 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 green, 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 red, red, right? Like nothing, nothing, nothing. There's a decent chance this thing breaks 1430 and then flies to, if not 22, maybe a little closer to like 18. I could easily see it being somewhere in that zone. And you know what? Let's just take the average of them and go with the bottom of that guy right there. That girl right there for my ladies watching this thing, right? So I like these three lines right here. I think that's a good boom, 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 1, 2, 3. Okay. I would be worried if we lost this 1260. You gotta talk about both sides of the coin, right? What should happen is this is going to start exponentially going up, right? Again, I don't really pretend to know the math behind these lines, but when you gap up like that monster, like that's going to sway the data, especially if you're only going to look at 8 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All 8 days are basically living around down here, and then we just do a 30% pop from down there, right? That's going to make the lines go whoop, and I think the 8 should catch up to that line, if not make it significantly a less worrisome fall. And then I think either the 8 or that golden line is what's going to catch this and then give the rebound, all right? I see it dropping a little bit after hours. I really don't care about that. The last thing we're going to talk about, because I think this is probably the most important thing going into Monday, all right? And I said this in the opening thoughts. So this is the view for the highest days ever. Clearly 1, 2, 3. I'm going to call that a maybe. 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, right? There were what? 1, 2, 3 good maybes on top of that 7. If not 7, this is the 10th best day of volume ever, right? Nothing ever came close before that. We are talking since ever, which is 2022, right? You can easily say since 2024 because that's really what it is, but top 10 volume day is a really big thing, all right? I'm going to lower the line back to here. This is where we had it because like I said in the opening thoughts, this was the last, impressive volume day. We cannot go lower. Man, I wish there were some commas here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We cannot go lower than 120 million shares. Let's just use easy math. 121. Oops. I don't know if that's easy math. Let's just do this before I look dumb. 120 million shares in a 7-hour day. We're looking for at least 17 million shares. All right. If we hit 180, which is a little bit more than today, in a 7-hour day, we're looking for anywhere between the number I just said, because I forgot it. Hopefully you can rewind it and go, or this 26 million that we would need. All right. And if you're pushing around 50 million shares by that second hour, oh my. Obviously, we're going to destroy this and do better than today, which would be amazing, right? So watch it maybe live a little horizontally on this 1260. Otherwise, I think once it breaks this 1430, man, there might not be a lot stopping it from that 22, okay? Where are we on the weekly real quick? These are all really healthy numbers, right? That's still a positive MACD with green over red. Obviously, the red is still over the green, but man, I'm more looking at that 63, very healthy number. A good week over the 50 line. And I mean, we are over all the moving averages right now on this weekly, right? Like, I think this maybe is what makes me think that 22 might be just hard to stop because literally green, red, nothing, right? So, where's that line? In the 15-ish range. Yeah, no, I don't think we're going to draw that. Cool. I like this. Let me know. Excuse me. Let's finish it off with BBAI because I did want to lump this together. I'm thinking about that and I'm still going to do it. Look, BBAI will either mimic or actually do better because we've seen this thing bring some crazy vault, right? Like when you look at SoundHound, I guess I'll probably chapter these individually, but SoundHound, even today on the great earnings love, only got 178 million, right? BBAI, half of that is basically today. And I mean, what's your 50-day average line? 140. I thought it'd be a little closer to that, right? But like this thing knows how to get more than that when the volume and the attention come, right? So if BBAI gets a higher volume day and people like their earnings, that's what's gonna either take this over the golden line like it did that one. What's my next line up? 9, 7. I think we would maybe wick to 980 if I had to guess if good earnings hits. Otherwise, like I said, we would fall to 6, if not maybe even this 550 line right here. Look, I don't care about MACD. I don't care about RSI. I don't care about this weekly chart. I even barely care about the moving averages, right? Like there isn't too much of an educated thing I can tell you right now except either ride the wave of good earnings love up, or avoid the avalanche down that is earnings hate. And one more time, all right? Oh, man, and I can't stress it enough. Good earnings should last you good 3 months until the next earnings come. Bad earnings obviously is the other side of that coin, right? So just watch what happens and either ride that wave up or avoid the avalanche down, all right? Excuse me, pardon me. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. Yo, let me know your expectations. What do you think is going to happen for BBAI come Monday, right? So, I appreciate you so much. Let's come into SOFI, all right? And look, I am going to easily say I still really love this earnings that we saw. Monster wick all the way up there, echoing that, right? There was an interesting offering that happened on this stock, all right? And on the last video, we actually talked about this is the perfect view. On this earnings, we went a little horizontal. Sorry, right? Like you see it. We went a little horizontal before the truth came. On this earnings, we went a little horizontal before the truth came, right? So far on this earnings, we've gone a little horizontal and we're still kind of waiting to see the truth come out, right? Personally, I don't care about the offering. All right. There is absolutely nothing on the screen that talks about float. All right. I've always said this. I move my personal money on the 1 and the 2. There is absolutely nothing about float in these. All right. I'm not saying don't use float. I know better traders than me that use float and tell me I should. You know what I mean? But I don't mind an offering if the company uses the money well, and just opinion based, but I think I kind of expect SoFi to use the money well, right? Like, I think I hear a lot of people say they've got a good executive team, this, that, and those, right? And as much as like, how do I word this? Generally, you want to do your offering down here and then, you watch it go. Man, SoFi is knocking on the door of breaking a golden line, and this might not be a bad place for that company to do the offering because it's about to shoot again, right? Last golden line break was from down here all the way to the new one up here, right? It took a long time, don't get me wrong, right? But like, SoFi does really well when it gets over that golden line, and I think I'm kind of okay with the offering news and more focus on the earnings love, liking the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, and I mean, I don't like to use the word expecting because that's nothing goes as planned in this wildly uncertain market, right? But truth be told, I'm just waiting for this 2240 to break, and then I'm expecting it to run all-time highs in love, right? I'm zooming out, zooming out. Obviously, all-time highs is way up here. In my opinion, this is the line that matters. If you break this line, we might even run all the way up here, right? Like, I am very well aware. It looks like the high is $28.26. I don't actually care about that line up there right now because, yeah, you break this and woof, good things will happen, right? So that's why this one's golden, not this one, or that one up there isn't drawn just yet, right? So a little extra context. But where are we on the weekly? Look, weekly's a little high, right? And weekly was actually very, very high at a 91 RSI. So in a lot of ways, what's happening is our RSI has cooled off. I mean, I know it looks silly that it's only gone to an 87, right? But we've gone as horizontal as we can while we let this thing kind of cool a little bit. The eights, I think it's still slowly chugging. Maybe there's still a couple weeks before we actually hit it. And maybe we still stay horizontal for another week or two until we actually do hit it, right? But um, no, I was trying to see. We used the last two earnings. Yeah, look, we were here. It basically hit this line and dropped. We were here. It basically hits the line and then we pop, right? So, yeah, I'm guessing kind of holding the slope because there really aren't any crazy gaps. I think over the next 2 to maybe 3 weeks. No, yeah, it's two. I think I like that two. I think over the next 2 weeks we'll stay horizontal just a little bit more, maybe a little bit over, a little bit under that. I think that third week is when we'll see the truth and go. And again, it really just stays, in I don't know what the word is, but exactly like it has the last couple, right? To week, 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 boom, week, 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 boom. It's only been week, week, right? We still kind of got to go week, 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 right? And then boom, right? I'm just kind of guessing here, but that's what we do here: educated thoughts and guesses, right? So, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so, so much.